And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Nemega Onyoka Adarere. I want to submit honestly that is a most difficult assignment and task to rescue a slave who is ignorant, who is pliant, and who is brainwashed by what I tag ethnoreligious ghaghaghaness. Over the last 48 hours, I've been doing back-to-back video presentations on why we need to fix the downstream oil and gas sector of Nigeria and provide low energy costs for the average Nigerian. You know, I have said this and I've said it again. You can only rescue slaves who are willing to be rescued and who understand the messages when you preach it. Now, and while I was making that presentation, I said it clearly, Nigeria is an oil producing country. We have everything going for us to be able to ramp up crude oil output to not less than 3 to 4 million barrels a day, refine 5 to 6 times what we consume here, and create massive jobs while reducing the cost of the white petroleum products, the prices here in Nigeria. I give a clear example. Brazil. I'll always cite Brazil because we share the same population demography, about 220 million people. As at 1970, Nigeria was far ahead of Brazil by every economic indicator. We are far ahead of Saudi Arabia. We are far ahead of South Korea. Go and fact check me. As at 1970, the Nigerian GDP was $12.3 billion. South Korea was $9.3 billion. Today, the South Korean GDP, Brazilian GDP then was about $10.2 billion. Today, the South Korean GDP is about $1.73 trillion. Nigerian GDP is $242 billion, rebased from $183 billion. The Brazilian GDP is $2.4 trillion, bigger than that of Nigeria by times 10. The Brazilians have oil reserve of about 15.5 billion barrels. But today, as of July, they produce 3.9 million barrels of crude every day. They refine 2.4 million barrels of crude every day. In 19 refineries, 11 owned by Petrobras and 8 by other private investors. Petrobras is efficient because the Brazilian government divested 78%, 72% of their shareholding there to private investors, both local and foreign, and only retained 28%. Petrobras annually generates turnover of over $121 billion, profit of $96 billion, asset size $174 billion, and they pay over $45 billion to the Brazilian government. NNPC, we cannot even cite what they are doing. There was a time we used to do 2.8 million barrels of crude and condensate. In 2010, we know what the Brazilians did. We know what the Saudi Arabians did. And we know what we can do. We cannot reinvent the wheel to do exactly what is done, to do what is right. NNPC should be privatized. We've said it. As quickly as possible. The refineries should be valued and sold out to private investors, mostly, if possible, Dapman and Ipman. You know, we've said this thing and we've said it many times. And now, we also made suggestions on how we can, through the framework of the PPP framework, produce crude and refine it here, so that an average price of the white petroleum product can be sold here in Nigeria at less than 600 naira per liter. While I was making this presentation, some people who are brainwashed by ignorance, somebody told me, why am I making argument? I made an argument. I said, the refineries in Nigeria are selling gasoline at 877 naira per liter, gantry. Whereas you can actually land the same product from Rotterdam, from every other part of the world to Nigeria at 823. Something is fundamentally wrong. Some people raise the issue. What of quality? I said, we have NDPRA certified quality metrics. Any product that does not meet the metrics should not be allowed to come into Nigeria. They argued, Brazil, a liter of petrol in Brazil is 1,300. Why Nigeria is this? Brazil, despite the fact that they produce over 3.9 million barrels of crude every day, despite the fact that they refine 2.4 million barrels of white petroleum crude every day, they produce enough white petroleum product, more than what they consume. The Brazilians still, last year, allowed $23 billion worth of petroleum imports. one of the ways they do, why they are doing so, they want to checkmate domestic players from trying to manipulate the prices and all those stuff. Protect consumers. Because where there is healthy competition, I am not against protecting local industries and businesses, but any protection must have the interest of the masses at heart. We must put in place checks, valves, and mechanisms, free market mechanisms that allow the consumers to get the best bargain. Consumers are king. So those of you who are arguing, they say, Brazil, petroleum product in Brazil is 1,300 naira, 1,208 naira equivalent. In Saudi Arabia, some of you argued it's 62 cents, which is equivalent of about 823 naira. And the people arguing this are among the poorest of Nigerians who are brainwashed by their ethno-religious ghaghaghaness. What is minimum wage in Saudi Arabia? Minimum wage in Saudi Arabia for Saudi citizens is 4,000 riyad. 4,000 riyad is equivalent to 1.54 million naira per month. That is the minimum wage for the least citizen in Saudi Arabia. In Brazil, minimum wage in Brazil is 1,538 riyals, which is equivalent to 436,000 naira. You are on a minimum wage of 70,000 naira. And some of us are providing credible, honest, creative suggestions that will enable you buy petrol at 600 naira and below. And you're busy defending your oppressors, those in government and in private sector, who are only after profiteering and not interested in what they can do to show up the socio-economic life of the average Nigerian. What kind of human beings are we? I pray that God will open our eyes and teach us the worst thing that happened to Nigeria is the level of illiteracy that we have in the land. And even those who purport to parade degrees are actually fundamentally illiterate. Carlos Ipola did a theory. And that theory is the theory of the man they call stupid. A stupid man is a man who defends decisions or takes decisions that hurts him and the other societies. I pray that God will help us. I have said it here. We must do everything. Whatever policies, whatever programs we are putting in place must be such that protects the overall interest of a majority of Nigerians, such that will help us to rescue the 197 million Nigerians who are currently living under multidimensional poverty. God bless you. Good morning.